Okay, so we've just finished running the Ansible install, our script to get Resourcespace on the remote server. We now have a brand new directory structure because it purges the old one, so this is all new stuff. We have created, during that script install, the assets DAM1012 to correspond to their where we're going to put the media being held for those individual sites. We have created correct permissions on the include file. Let's go ahead and look at a few more things here. If we look north of directory, we see that we've created the directories for the different websites, as well as this is the master directory that we're in right now. And we've also created a file which is a dynamic configs. We'll see how that comes together in a second. That will be included by the config.php file, which will be built in here. So right now, okay, we'll type the domain name in here. All right, so that's what we expected. The browser comes up and we answer the questions. Now I'm taking you through this from the beginning so that you know how we created what we create for the Ansible script in the final analysis. The first Ansible script gets everything installed, but now we've got to generate an SQL file and a config.php file that we can use for all subsequent DAM1, DAM2, and so on. Okay, for the DB user, it is going to be DAM admin. None of the MySQL roots or DB matter. That's what it's going to be. So right now, if I click on the DAM0, you see there's no tables in there. If I look for config files, there is no config.php. There are variations, but config.php does not exist. There is a file store directory, so that was just created by Resourcespace, but it hasn't created any of the directories inside of it yet. So those are the things that are missing. Let's go ahead and hit that begin installation. And you'll notice it's pretty busy right here. And at this point, I can probably see some tables being created. Okay, and it reads to us our username and password so that we can log in. I'll put that password right there. And I'm going to go all the way through here with the login, just in case there's anything data-oriented or file structure-oriented that needs to be recreated. You'll notice if we look at the rows here, we have all the way up to the activity, down here to the user collection. Everything above that has data in it. We've already been through this data. We know none of that data is relative to DAM1, 2, or any of them after. So that's a nice native, we can capture that and use it for the others. Now let's come over here to the file system. I'm going to look at file store now. You'll see that there is information in there and so on that wasn't there a minute ago. I've already looked at these. None of these are specific to this particular install. They are cache files. All those file store cache files. And if we go to include, we see we now have a config PHP file with all our data in there. So that's how we get the core stuff. Now we've taken this config PHP file and dissected its contents. And some of it is going to be dynamic. In other words, it may be a different password for the second DAM. Certainly it's going to be a different URL. The purpose is going to be different. So there's going to be some things that are different. And so we've created two files. Let's get over here to the Ansible area. Static is the one that, it's like the one that you just saw for the most part. It has all the things that are static within that file and they don't have to, and they're not in the database, by the way, so they're just in the file. But when the database is saved as we move forward, it will pull from this and it will begin to matter. But starting fresh, it does not matter. Use the same ones. You can use A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4 if you want. So this works, and everything in the static one is, for the most part, not going to change. Things that we expect to change, we're putting in this one called dynamic, and the dynamic one sniffs out the actual domain name. It gives us a DAM ID number, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on, and a variety of other things like email addresses that might change, the URL that will change, and so on. And maybe some extensions or custom things that we want to add, we'll be putting it in that file. You see we've got the server, but none of the other database information is there because it's in the dynamic one. And this calls the global config. Our file calls the global config when it's all said and done. Now, well, in this latest incarnation, it looks like my base URL is off by that much right there. That doesn't need to be there. If I override that base URL by doing this and hard coding it, I get my style back. I wonder what's funny that it loads part of the site and not other parts with that base URL being wrong, but that's okay. I know what to fix. Now we have some things in that SQL query that were basically placeholders. But we also had a couple of email addresses that were admin at server matter, which is just a default. And we're going to change that to this placeholder right here. Actually, we'll use the to email. So they'll get emails by default to that. They can always go into the application after the fact and change that, but using Ansible, we'll be able to make that accurate on the fly to whatever their admin password is. I mean, their admin email address is. Okay, now we're going to put this to the test. I'm going to delete the contents of that DAM0 database. And I've written some SQL. We're going to take that one SQL file that we saved from the previous install. It's in a nice safe place right here, and we're going to copy it to the remote server and then re-import it into the one that we just deleted, which is DAM0. Run that playbook and see how it goes. And no failures. And based on that partial database the last time, we should be full up. And we are. Okay, I think we're going to take the curly braces out of that and just call it admin email, which is not a real email address, and we'll look for that and change it out before the file is actually imported. Okay, so now it's going to look for admin email, and this is what that looks like. This little with items is going to allow us to put in multiple string replaces. So on this one, we're looking for admin email. We're going to put that in its place, our template, whatever is in our server admin to email placeholder from the particular client. And then we'll go ahead and pull it in, which we already know works. Okay, we've got an empty database to start with. And we'll run this. So we're going to copy it to the remote. We're going to do a string replace here, and then we're going to import it there. All right, no failures. Populate a database, look for the user table, and we have our email address, and that is a converted email address, even though it's the same as one I've used before. Now, in theory, we haven't touched the file system. This ought to just come up fine, and it does. Okay, so now the next test, DAM2. or dam 1 rather, which I expect to do nothing for us. Well, I hadn't considered that, but it actually did quite a bit for us. It went through the building of the database automatically, and my guess is the one thing it left out is the user folder. Yeah, well, so we've got the user folder in there, but there are no users. So what we're going to do, I mean, that was very nice. We appreciate that. But we're going to drop the contents of that. And since we can't do this all in one script, we're creating 3 different ones for 0, 1, and 2. And let's see what we end up with. No failures. And we have our data across the board. I just ran the playbook, and it took 2 minutes and 42 seconds to download it, install it, make all the configurations. I can't really complain about that. And dam 1 came right up. Dam 0 came right up. And dam 0, 1, and 2 all work the way they're supposed to. So that's a win. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.